find it so interesting that she was the first person when Wednesday came to the academy to try and like suck up to her a little bit, kind of make her feel a little bit more at home. But it was like, okay, you were actually after me the entire time. What is up, you guys? Welcome back to the channel. It's your girl JD here, back with another review. As you can tell by the title, we are going to be talking about the much discussed, much talked about show over on Netflix, Wednesday. And basically when they say Wednesday, they pretty much named the show after Wednesday Addams, who, as you guys know, if you've watched the show, obviously you know she's a part of the Addams family, and they have actually made quite a few different shows and series and movies with regards to the Addams family over the decades. So this is nothing really new. However, this is going to be the first time I've ever seen a series like solely dedicated to Wednesday, the character of Wednesday. Y'all can let me know if y'all have, but to be honest, I haven't watched all of like the movies and shows and stuff dedicated to the Addams family. I've seen like a few clips and stuff here and there, but I just don't have super good memories on watching like all of them. Just gonna be honest. Now this particular series, I ended up binge watching. I was actually visiting my boyfriend and I was not doing well, and I just saw this show pop up because, you know, on Netflix they have the little thing that says top 10 in whatever region you're in, and I just saw Wednesday and I was like, this looks interesting. I hadn't heard anybody really talk about it because it had just been released like a couple days ago when I saw it, and I was like, well, it could be good, it could be trash, but you know, we're just gonna give it a chance anyway, you know? And I'm happy that I did, honestly, because this show was actually pretty darn good, okay? Now, before I get into the highlights, or at least what I consider to be a highlight in my mind about the show, I usually kind of go into like the surrounding stuff, like the cast and all that type of stuff. So I'm gonna go through that real quick. Of course, you guys know Jenna Ortega. She's the one playing Wednesday, the main character. And then, surprisingly, we actually have Christina Ricci, who I did not recognize in the actual series. I found out that she was actually playing, I think, Miss Thornhill. I think she was the, I'm guessing she was a teacher or professor, because it looks as though she was a part of the staff at the school, Nevermore Academy. That's where Wednesday ended up going. Then, of course, you have Morticia Addams, played by Catherine Zeta-Jones, who we have, of course, seen on the screens for quite some time, I'm sure. Louise, I think that's how you say it, Louise Guzman, she's playing Gomez Addams. And then you have Gwendolyn Christie, who I remembered after seeing her face again. I was like, wait a minute, don't I know you from somewhere? And it was Game of Thrones. I forgot her character name, but she was the really tall lady. But anyways, yeah, moving on. So you have Emma Myers. So she's playing Wednesday's friend, well, who eventually becomes her friend, but you know, yeah. But she starts out as just Wednesday's roommate at the academy. And hopefully I'm saying her name correct. Enid? I'm gonna say Enid. Pugsley, who's Wednesday's brother, Isaac Ordonez. I'm not sure how to pronounce that. Those are kind of like the main characters. And then of course you have your supporting, who of course, you know, play into the storyline somewhere down the line. Now, we're gonna really get into it, okay? So in the beginning, we see obviously Wednesday. She is at this school with her brother Pugsley, and he's getting bullied, and she's just like, you know what? I'm gonna take it a little bit too far because only I can bully my brother. And that's kind of how I feel about my siblings too. It's like, even though I don't really bully them, okay, I feel like that's just a bit much. But I do play with them, you know, every now and again I would annoy them type of thing. But I understand wholeheartedly when it comes to siblings. It's like, listen, only I can pick on them. You can't do that, okay? So she takes it to the next level. She takes this bag of like piranhas you know, I'm not going to go into detail, but, you know, she puts it in the pool with the guys that kind of bullied him. And after that, I believe she ended up getting like suspended or, I don't know, expelled. And she ended up having to go to her parents' old school, which is Nevermore Academy. And that's how she ends up there. But at first, I find it kind of surprising that you have your child who is obviously kind of different in many ways, okay? You just have both of them just going to a normal school, like, what? Okay. But yeah, they ended up sending her, not Pugsley now, but just her to Nevermore Academy. And that's how she ends up running into Enid, and Enid is basically her roommate. But of course, she's kind of like the stark contrast to Wednesday's character, who we know good and well is kind of dark, mysterious, kind of likes to be alone, doesn't really say much, you know, that type of way. Basically, she is, like I said, the complete opposite of Wednesday. She's very bubbly, very outgoing. She thinks pretty much her and Wednesday are kind of like best buds straight out the gate almost, you know? So that's when she runs into, I believe, Xavier. That's when she meets him. And they had some type of weird connection. I was trying to figure out, like, it just already seemed like this established friendliness between, well, I shouldn't say between them, but from Xavier towards Wednesday. And I was trying to figure, I was like, do y'all know each other or something? Like, what's happening, you know? So we get to see later on into the show why Xavier is such an important part to the show itself. It definitely ties into the mystery that kind of plays out from episode 1 all the way until the end. Really quickly, I just want to read what the write-up was. I forgot to actually say that before I started with the highlights. It says, while attending Nevermore Academy, Wednesday Addams attempts to master her emerging psychic ability, thwart a killing spree, and solve the mystery that embroiled her parents 25 years ago. So like I said, her parents had actually went to Nevermore Academy, and that was like obviously 2 decades plus ago, okay, from when she came there. And we end up finding out some pretty interesting things about them as well and their history within the school. Now, what I find interesting is that before obviously her parents leave the school and leave her at the academy, he ends up releasing Thing, which is basically the hand. He's a part of the family and they can't find the rest of his body. So yeah, basically Thing, that's what his name is. So he is supposed to be the guardian, so to speak, I guess, for Wednesday while she's there, just to keep an eye on her. Wednesday kind of ends up using Thing as kind of like her mini henchman to kind of carry out everything that she needs done around the school so that she doesn't really have to be totally involved, you know? One other person that she comes across is Tyler, and Tyler comes in handy later on down the line with doing her dirty work as well. He unfortunately is the son of the sheriff, I believe, of the town that the school is in. So of course she's trying to figure different things out with regards to her parents, that mystery, and then also trying to figure out who the heck this monster is on campus. Later on, I think it's actually in the first episode, she manages to find her way into the forest, and then that's when she pretty much comes across this monster, but the monster kind of avoids her and goes after another character. It was like another student. I can't remember his name, but I think the monster ended up pretty much, you know, taking him out. Okay, I'm gonna say it like that, just taking him out. And they were trying to convince other people that he had just decided to leave the school. What ended up happening actually is we find out later on down the line that I believe the principal, Larissa, she is actually a shapeshifter. So I thought that was pretty interesting. And then also another thing that I forgot to mention is that Enid is a werewolf, but she's having issues changing. Her parents come over, you know, obviously they have like Parents' Day. You could tell that the mom is very hard on her, but the dad kind of just stays quiet. So she's struggling with that, trying to change into her werewolf self, okay? What I find interesting though is that when it comes to Wednesday, even though she is this dark and mysterious, doesn't really say much type of person, you could tell that like every now and again she does have a little bit to her in terms of like an emotional side. Like she could kind of empathize with Enid, and also later on down the line they have a little bit of a tiff, but you know, you could tell they kind of, yeah, they ended up liking each other. Continuation with that, the character development I thought for Wednesday was really, really well done, because I think, like I said, you know, you get to see one side of her in the first couple of episodes, but then after she starts to open up, it really is a cool thing to see her be so like fixed on something, because I feel like in the first couple of episodes she goes from being this really quiet to herself type of person, but really and truly she's just trying to figure out like who she can trust with certain things. And Enid and Tyler, obviously, like I said, they kind of come in handy along with Thing. They kind of help her with doing certain things and getting certain things solved. So there's two different mysteries that Wednesday is trying to solve during this entire series. One with her parents, because apparently someone had tried to frame her dad for murder, okay? And then also another mystery was the monster, who I can't remember the name of in terms of the actual creature, but they were trying to figure out who the monster was, and then also who basically turned him into what he was, because apparently they kind of had to bring that out in a person. So that was another thing. She's simultaneously trying to figure out like who's framing who with regards to her dad and her parents in general, and then also who is supposedly taking out all these students across campus and pretty much injuring them in some cases, like her friend Eugene, I think is his name. And like I said earlier, I find it interesting how in the first couple of episodes she sees these friends of hers, well, who eventually I think become friends. She sees them as kind of like her sort of henchmen, like she just kind of treats them as people that she can use. And then after she realizes that, you know, maybe I shouldn't do that, she kind of has like a come to Jesus moment a little bit. She's just like, maybe I shouldn't treat them like this. Kind of when I think they had broken into somebody's house. I think it was the family's house of the victim that they claimed that her dad had killed. Yes, that was a lot. That was a mouthful. She had asked Tyler to basically take her and Enid to the house, but Tyler thought that it was a date. Yes, wild, okay? And I can't remember. I'm trying to place the dance, the most talked about scene with her at this school dance, and they were making it such a big deal, which was so funny to me. It's like everyone was making this dance out to be such a big deal and making it seem like it deserved like 5 stars or something. People were just like, oh yeah, we found out that she choreographed this dance herself, and it was right before they decided to film the scene, and it was just kind of like, okay. I mean, it was kind of funny to me. It wasn't really something to be taken seriously, I feel. I think it was more so meant to be overly dramatic so that it'd be kind of funny because she was so serious with it, you know? But anyways, I can't place the timeline too well because I did watch this like 2 months ago at this point. Was it 2 months? Actually, probably a month and a half at this point. Yeah, a month and a half. Not yet 2 months. Like I was saying, I can't quite place the timeline. Everything's kind of fuzzy, so that's why I'm kind of remembering things in bits and pieces. So please do excuse me. But like I was saying, eventually we see that Wednesday starts to realize like, these people around me, they might actually be my friends, you know? I might actually need to treat them like they are actually my friends because I do feel something for them deep, deep down, you know? As annoying as they can be, right? But Enid, after they had broken into that house, we see that the monster comes in and is basically hunting them down into the basement. And before her and Wednesday, you know, eventually escape, she's trying to collect stuff from the basement. And Enid's just like, what are you doing? Like, are you trying to get us killed or in trouble? Like, what is happening right now? Shortly after that, that's when Enid was like, you know what? You do not care about me or my safety. You just care about getting what you need and what you want. So that was kind of like where they had that little rift moment. And after that is when I think that Wednesday had that realization like, oh, you know, I actually did care about that human or werewolf, you know? But anyways, yeah, I think we realized that she isn't actually as detached as she puts off to be or puts on to be. Acts like, whatever, anyway, but y'all catch my drift, right? But eventually we find out that it was actually the professor, aka Christina Ricci, okay? She summons the beast or monster, whatever. And I find it so interesting that she was the first person when Wednesday came to the academy to try and like suck up to her a little bit, kind of make her feel a little bit more at home. But it was like, okay, you were actually after me the entire time. So it kind of leads into the saying, keep your friends close, but keep your enemies closer. I think she was just trying to keep an eye on her in that way. But I think at one point, Wednesday thought it was her psychologist or psychiatrist, therapist. I think it's therapist. She at one point thought her therapist was the person that was summoning this beast, right? So I thought that was obviously rather interesting, an interesting turn of events. I kind of thought it was her, you know, the professor at one point, but then I kind of dismissed it because I was like, yeah, there's not really too much evidence. But still, it was kind of weird how she was like, yeah, if you need to talk to me, you know, let me know. Like, no, I don't know who you are, you know? But then again, I'm just a skeptical person. So I just really question everybody and everybody's intentions that are around me. I'm just like, can I really trust you? So I feel like I kind of relate to Wednesday on that level because I feel like Wednesday, she just was like, yeah, nah. Her detached demeanor, I think, was just kind of her way of like protecting herself, but trying to analyze like, okay, what can I do with this person? Who can I use to do this, this, and that? You know what I mean? Like the brain was always churning. But what I find interesting also is that Wednesday, she actually ends up having like these, not hallucinations, but like visions. She would see things and it's very similar to what her mom has to deal with. She would see into like the future or the past, that type of thing. And she was definitely struggling with that throughout the first few episodes, and she just was trying her hardest not to call on her mom, even though her mom would have probably been the best to help her through that, you know? She was definitely trying to thug it out alone, trying to do her own thing with that. And she ends up discovering that she has a ancestor from hundreds of years ago. Looks like her too, right? But an ancestor who I believe they had like suspected of like witchcraft or something like that. And this ancestor actually, we find out that she was actually running away from this Crackstone guy. I'm trying to remember his actual name. Was it Joseph? Yeah, Joseph Crackstone. I'm trying to remember his character name. So Joseph Crackstone was basically trying to kill all these witches, supposedly, right? Hundreds of years ago. And then we find out that the professor, not only was she summoning this beast, okay, but she was trying to basically summon Joseph Crackstone from the dead, okay? She was basically trying to get this guy to come back so that he can wipe out all of these children at Nevermore Academy and also pretty much everywhere. She was trying to get all these like magical, mystical beings gone, which I find so interesting because it was like, you're using magic to summon this beast to pretty much keep these people in line, right? But then you're summoning a guy to destroy the magical creatures themselves. It's just like, okay, sis, sure, you know? What I find pretty cool though is that shortly after, I actually forgot to mention this, shortly after Wednesday arrives at the school, she ends up meeting this girl, Bianca, I believe is her name. And she, I believe, was a siren. So basically she had this power to pretty much get people to do whatever she wanted. And what we find out is that Xavier and her used to actually date. And I guess at some point during their relationship, she might have used some of her powers, I guess, to get him to fall in love with her or something like that. So that's when they broke up because he was like, nah, I don't like this, right? So Bianca, she is kind of acting like, you know, that it girl, the popular girl who kind of treats everybody else like they're below her, you know, that type of way. And Wednesday comes in and she's just like, you know what, I'm gonna try and knock this girl off her high horse. But unfortunately that kind of crashes and burns because she tries to beat Bianca at fencing and that just didn't happen. But she was close, you know, she was close. So after that, she just kind of tries her best to avoid Bianca at all costs. But of course, since Xavier started hanging around, or at least every time Wednesday would be on the campus grounds, he would just show up and it'd just be like, why are you stalking her? What is happening? So like I said at the beginning, he just had this weird familiarity with Wednesday, and Wednesday, I feel, didn't even know who the heck he was. Like, she treated him like a wholehearted stranger, but I think at some point we find out during the show, now that I remember, we find out that they actually do know each other. I think she had like rescued him from being like cremated or something like that because it was like a funeral. I think he was hiding. Either he was hiding or she was hiding. I don't remember. But one of them was hiding in this casket and it was about to get put into cremation. So yeah. But anyways, we end up finding out that they do know each other. But it's just that Wednesday didn't remember who the heck he was the first couple of episodes. So yeah. Anyway, where was I? Bianca. Yes, we find out that Bianca does have a soft side. Her and Wednesday end up kind of clicking. And shortly after that, she ends up helping Wednesday out when it came to the monster, who we actually ended up finding out wasn't Xavier, it was actually Tyler. So that was pretty dang ironic, okay? So that was another surprise. And then because of this monster being on the loose, and then also the Crackstone guy being on the loose, we had to eventually get some help from other students at the Nevermore Academy, and Bianca is one of those people that ends up helping Wednesday out, and she actually pretty much kind of saves the day a little bit when it came to Crackstone, and I thought that was actually really nice. Well, obviously because, you know, she was trying not to die herself, but then also the fact that she kind of came to Sunday's rescue a little bit, you know? So I thought that was nice. It's like, well, we're no longer a bully, we're, you know, cool. We might not be friends, but we're cool now. Honestly, I think I thoroughly enjoyed this show, mainly because it had depth to it. And I think this show kind of reminds me a little bit of Sabrina, or I think it was like the Chilling Adventures of Sabrina or something like that. I can't remember. But y'all remember that show, Sabrina, on Netflix? I think they had actually ended the show maybe a little bit over a year ago or two. I can't remember. But either way, they had to end it after a couple of seasons on there because I feel like no one was really watching it. It has a similar feeling to Wednesday in that it's kind of dark, mysterious, kind of chilling, you know? But it didn't have the same depth to it, and then also it was very confusing. It was hard to follow Sabrina, honestly. On all of her adventures, I was so lost. I was like, what's happening? Who's turning into what? Who's who? Like, everyone was shape-shifting. I was like, I don't know what's happening anymore. I don't. So I stopped watching it after a while. I was done. But with this, I feel like it's very easy to figure out, even though there was two mysteries going on simultaneously that Wednesday was trying to figure out, it still made sense. There was a lot of things, a lot of pieces that just kind of, you know, boop, 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 boop. But overall, it was a very easy to follow show. And I feel like that definitely ties into your viewers being able to actually not only relate to the characters, but relate to the story being told, even if obviously it's about magical beings, okay, whatever, but it still makes sense. So it's something that they can enjoy, you know? And I think that when it came to all of the twists and turns, like I said, the surprises, instead of it being Xavier being the monster, we find out that it was actually Tyler. Instead of the therapist, Wednesday's therapist, being the person that was bringing the monster forth and telling him to kill all these students, it turns out to be the very person who she had first met that was like, oh, if you have anything to talk about, you know, I'm here. A really chill person. And it was like, why are you trying to kill us? You know? So I think that was very well thought out, very well put together. The dance scene I thought was fun, also funny at the same time, because people really was like hyping this thing up like this was the best thing since sliced bread. I'm like, this is not meant to be taken serious, obviously. This is meant to be overly dramatic so that it's funny, in my opinion. That's how I took it. But anyways, I thought this was a really good show. Very well done. The writing actually wasn't lazy in this one. So I was happy. And also we find out that it is getting renewed for a second season. So I'm very excited. I actually saw this over on, I think, the Spiritual Word, somewhere on Instagram. I'll try to remember to post a little clip that I saw over me talking. But basically, I think it might be, I guess, maybe a teaser for season 2, but then again, I feel like Netflix doesn't really do that, so I don't know. I don't know what I was looking at, but yeah. But I can't wait. I'm very excited. Hopefully Netflix does not take too long with putting out the second season, okay, because I'm gonna get very mad. So you know how Netflix go, I swear. They'd have one season of a show that does well, and then they'd like pick it up for a second season, tell everybody that they're picking it up for a second season, and then you don't see that second season for like a good 2-3 years. And it's like, what is happening? You know? But that's gonna be it for my review. I thought this was very well done. Pretty sure season 2 is probably gonna be even better, but y'all can let me know your thoughts on this one down in the comments. I'll catch y'all in the next one. Peace.